va a llegar el gol del Arsenal. Ozil marca Mesut Ozil.
Bellerín, otro defensor, otro disparo, Monreal, gol. Marca el futbolista español, marca Nacho Monreal. Pim pam pum.
This is Arsecast Extra.
Hello and welcome to another Arsecast Extra. As always with James from Gunnerblog. James, goodly night to you?
Goodly night. I think even goodly evening wouldn't do this justice, would it? I mean, we're speaking in the immediate aftermath of the game on Monday night.
Yes, indeed we are. I mean, you must be literally just back in from the Emirates.
I literally am. I have had time to come into the flat, pour myself a gin and tonic and sit down. I just took off a hat as we speak.
Okay. Well, so, I mean, this is freshly cooked, as freshly cooked an Arsecast Extra as anybody could ever hope for.
This is it. It's hot off the press. I mean, the disadvantage of that is that I haven't seen any replay, so I will be speaking, with a certain degree of ignorance about certain things, like Rob holding handballs and stuff like that. But, the advantage is I'm very much caught in the exhilaration of the moment because I thoroughly enjoyed that second half. Yes,
it seems to be a common theme, doesn't it? I really enjoyed that second half, said the Arsenal fan for the 9th or 10th successive game. Really is a feature of what we're doing and how we're doing it. What way will we go at this? Because we can't ignore the first half. But the second half was so good, you don't necessarily want to start on a down note, but maybe that's what we should do, just to sort of bring everybody back down to earth briefly before we lift them up again with the joy and the rapture of what Mesut Ozil and Alex Iwobi and Hector Bellerin and Pierre-Emerick Aubameyang did in that second half, which was extremely tasty. It really was.
Yes, I mean, I think you're right. Let's do the first half just so I can kind of calm down and my blood pressure can return to normal, and then we can properly dissect the game.
Yeah.
To begin at the beginning, I mean, Unai Emery is a man who I am finding it impossible to predict. After years of sort of being able to vaguely guess what Arsene Wenger might do in any given game, he continues to surprise, and that team sheet was no different, really.
Yeah, I was a bit surprised, to be honest. I wasn't necessarily surprised to see Ozil come back in, but
no.
It was not the 4-4-2 thing that he did at Fulham, or the 4-2-2-2 thing that we did at Fulham, which worked really well, which was, again, a bit of a surprise because it had worked so well there. We're playing at home, but, he obviously saw something in Leicester that made him decide to go a different way. I mean, what in particular surprised you about the starting lineup? Was it the lack of Aubameyang? I mean, obviously there was no left back, so I mean that's a different issue. We had to mend and make do there, but no Aubameyang in the front four. Was that where you were taken aback slightly?
I thought so. I thought having come on and scored twice against Fulham, and having kind of tried out that new 4-2-2-2 system, I thought this might be the game which we'd see Aubameyang and Lacazette paired together as a proper bona fide front two, but it wasn't to be. I thought Ozil would come in. I just thought maybe Mkhitaryan would be the man to make way, and Welbeck maybe. But yeah, the left back thing was a real surprise. There'd been no indication of that beforehand, and actually, I think it hurt us in that first half. I think Monreal, when you think back to that Fulham match, he was such an important part of our attacking play, and he combined so well with Iwobi, and we didn't have that same outlet on that flank in that first half.
No, I did. That did occur to me a number of times throughout the first half. I was thinking we could really do with a left-footed left back, and maybe a left back, with all due respect to Stefan Lichtsteiner, who isn't looking every single one of his 34 years. I thought he really struggled by the time he came off. I think I just made a comment on the live blog. I was going, he looks absolutely knackered. I think Leno had the ball in his hands, and it was a sort of situation where you'd normally roll it out to your left back, and he was just sort of standing in the box because he didn't want to move. He was just really, really tired. It's difficult. We know it's difficult being played out of position, but and I don't want to put any blame on him, but yeah, it did cost us a bit, I think, in the first half. But also, we let them have a chance within the first couple of minutes, which we've done in quite a number of games, and we can talk about how good we are in the second half, and I think that's a real credit to us, and it's a very positive thing. But what's not positive is allowing the opposition chances that early in the game, because it speaks to me, I don't know what you think about this, but of a lack of focus.
Yeah, maybe. I mean, it's one of those curious things where you're kind of torn between wanting to praise the team for their response to situations and the way they grow into games, and wanting to criticise them for the manner in which they start them. And, I say the team, I mean the manager as well included in that. We definitely were not the better team for the first 30 minutes or so, in my estimation.
Fair.
I thought Leicester did pretty well, actually, and created some really dangerous situations. I mean, I thought Leno made a very good save in that first half.
Yeah,
that was a really top save, and they probably ought to have tested us more. Was it Maguire, or is that where he made the save? I forget now.
It was a Maguire header that Leno made the save from. Lacazette was playing him onside. I just don't know that our defensive organisation in that situation was particularly good anyway. We were overloaded at the back of that line, so Leicester had a chance to create joy if they did manage to stay onside. So, yeah.
And I felt that going forward, I mean, it's interesting because, look, ultimately this was a game in which Mesut Ozil really shone and contributed some brilliant moments, and I'm sure we'll come on to talk about those. But in the first half, I was watching it and thinking, with Lacazette as the kind of lone striker, I felt we struggled a bit, and I feel like he's a player who throughout his time at Arsenal has generally looked better with a partner alongside him, be it Aubameyang or even Danny Welbeck. He tends to fare better when he's got someone shouldering that responsibility with him, and without that, I thought Lacazette wasn't really in the game, and I felt we struggled to get a foothold in the final third.
Yeah.
So it was curious the way it all kind of turned on its head, and maybe it took going behind for that to happen. And if that is the case, then I think you're right. That has to be looked at as a focus issue.
Yeah, but then you can talk about character and response and being able to get yourself back into the game, which is something that we have done. I think there's a stat saying we've been drawing at half-time in each of our last 7 games. And we've gone on to win them all. I think that's what it is anyway. Who had it there? I think Andrew had it up on his Twitter, so I'll just check it out there.
The
last 7 league games, half-time, 1-1, 1-1, 3 0-0s and 2 more 1-1s, and we've gone on to win 3-1, 3-2, 2-1, 2-0, 2-0, 5-1, 3-1. So, you can, and I think should, talk about the way that we're starting games and the way that we're not able to impose ourselves in the first half. Is it hard to look beyond this being something is it just coincidence? Is it deliberate? Is this the way that Emery wants his team to play? I mean, clearly he doesn't send his team out to concede chances the way that we have done, but is he banking on this strong second half? Is that just something that, his fitness training, for example, is getting out of the players, a greater stamina, greater endurance, and in the second half of games when the opposition are tired, we're able to capitalise on that?
I think fitness is definitely part of it. I mean, take an individual like Alex Iwobi. The fact that he played 90 minutes against Leicester and seemed to grow into the game, really. As the second half wore on, he was getting stronger and stronger. This is a guy who couldn't go beyond sort of 60, 70 minutes a year ago. It felt like that anyway. And so I think that does speak to the fitness work that's been done on the training ground. And we do look like a stronger, more intense team than we have for some time. But I also wonder, is it part of, I know we're pushing into November now, but is this still part of Emery's learning process? And does he not necessarily always get it right from the start? But we're seeing that he's someone who can be reactive within games, and he can change the course of games after kickoff.
Yeah.
And you hope that with time, when he knows the league, when he knows his players, when he knows the opposition, he'll be able to get it right from the start, because granted, that would certainly be a lot more comfortable. Yeah,
I mean, it didn't click for us really in the first half. It has to be said. From an attacking point of view, I thought Mkhitaryan was pretty peripheral. It didn't work the way that it worked at Fulham. I think that was the expectation, or the hope certainly that we had, was maybe we just pick up where we left off against Fulham. I mean, we did in the end, but you know, in that first period, they did have chances. Leno made that save. They probably should have had a penalty. Rob Holding handball not long after being booked. Some people will say it's kind of ball to handish, but I think when you jump like that and the ball whacks off your hand right in front of the referee as well, I think we were lucky to get away with that, to be honest. And this is something we have to look at, is these fine margins as well. At 1-1, they had a header that smashed back off the crossbar.
Yeah.
You know, after we'd been on top and we played much better than they did in the second half, and they were talking on TV, you know, Leicester haven't had a chance since the 20th minute. You know, it showed Arsenal's dominance and the way we were controlling the game. But, you know, 6 inches lower and we're 2-1 down, and the game has a very different complexion. So there is an element, as much as I really like what we did and how we did it in that second half, we are kind of walking a bit of a tightrope at times.
Yeah, I'm in a WhatsApp group with a load of friends, and they all support different clubs. And during the second half, I was caught up in the excitement, and I found myself sending a message saying to them all, saying, I think Arsenal might be sort of quite good at the moment. I think we might be, you know, all right. And the responses I got were generally people saying that they find us a confusing team as a neutral because, you know, they watch the first half and they kind of think we could maybe be a couple of goals down, and that's in more than one game. You know, they look at, of course, a number of games and think, well, they really should be behind at half-time and potentially out the game. And yet in the second, we produce this astonishing attacking football and look like we can score from every part of the pitch, really. And I think that confusion, I mean, is accurate. I think it's sort of shared by most Arsenal fans. I think, you know, it's 10 wins on the bounce, and there's a lot to love about that, but it's not necessarily convincing across the course of 90 minutes, is it?
Sure. No, we haven't really. I mean, Fulham was the most complete performance of the season, and even that we conceded late in the first half. So their goal...
Was there much to complain about with their goal? Because, as I say, I only saw it in real time, and obviously there was misfortune on the way it actually went in the net. But were there problems in the build-up?
I think we maybe lost the ball a little bit easily high up the pitch. It could have been... I don't know whether it was Johnny Evans or whether it was Maguire got there ahead of Ozil and they worked the ball. I don't quite know where Mkhitaryan was. I'd have to watch it again. Normally I download the game and watch the key moments yet again before I do the podcast, and haven't had a chance really to do that. But yeah, I think it was a lovely first touch, wasn't it, from Chilwell? Really nice first touch. Got a bit of luck. I don't think it was a shot. I think it was a cross that deflected in off Bellerin. So we put it down for a Bellerin own goal. But you know, you couldn't say that it was necessarily against the run of play or that it was particularly unexpected based on what had come before.
No, and I'm watching the goal again now. It's Lacazette who's chasing Chilwell when he skips beyond Bellerin. So
right.
I have no idea where Mkhitaryan had got to. He presumably had been involved in an attacking move that broke down. But yeah, I mean, look, it's a great first touch, almost a good enough first touch that, you know, he sort of buys the luck off the second touch, which comes off Bellerin. But that was at 30 minutes, and it was difficult to argue with, really. I mean, they had looked a threat at times, particularly in the air. We hadn't appeared the most organised at the back. And as much as you might like to say, yes, we're missing probably our two most senior defenders in Socrates and Monreal, that's been a common thread, hasn't it, through Arsenal this season? Whatever the personnel have been, we haven't looked the most secure at the back. So it was difficult to be too surprised by that. Yeah,
that is true. But, you know, we did get back into it before half-time. Just before half-time, it was one of those goals where you're going, okay, look, we get to half-time, he'll have a word, we'll be better in the second half. You know, it should be all right. And then we pull this fantastic piece of play out of the hat. Ozil driving towards the box, Bellerin crossed it back in, and Ozil's finish is just superb. On the run, just gets to the bounce of the ball and just guides it in one of those where, yeah, that's what they say, isn't it? He just guided it in off the post, and, you know, going in off the post makes the goal 22% better, as we know.
Absolutely, yeah, it really does. I mean, it was the perfect strike, and it's actually a 1-2, isn't it? Because it's Ozil driving towards goal. He finds Bellerin, and the cutback from Bellerin's really good. I mean, I know, obviously, he's unfortunate on the first goal, but he's someone you've talked about a few times in the last few weeks as someone who's steadily improving, finding some consistency, finding some form, and his contribution tonight, I thought was massive. 2 assists for him, and the ball for Ozil is brilliant, and the finish is just sensational. It's so audacious to take it first time, and he just doesn't break his stride. What I love about it most is that he's kind of celebrating as soon as he makes contact. He knows he's got exactly the right angle on that for it to just find the far corner. So yeah, it was a brilliant goal and a brilliant move, actually. It goes right back to the top left corner of the pitch, the kind of left back position where Torreira wins it. That's what he's in the team for. Starts a move flowing, and an audacious finish. And Ozil, he's been pretty good in the box, hasn't he? I don't know how many goals he's got this season now, but it feels like he's got a few under his belt already.
Is that 4, maybe?
Yeah.
3 or 4?
3 or 4. And it feels like there's been a sort of a bit more composure about him in those positions. It's difficult to obviously pin down why that might be, but I'm thoroughly enjoying it.
Yeah, particularly when you would probably say he hasn't really hit the heights or hit his best form at any point this season, apart from what he did tonight. So, that's an interesting return for him. I'm just looking up the stats here now.
I think it is 4, 3 Premier League and 1 in the Europa League.
Right, well, there you go. And not an assist yet. Oh, he did get one tonight. Yeah, he would have got one tonight. Now I'm looking at stats that haven't been updated yet.
He's got 1 assist to his name. I think that's right.
Well, he got the one for Aubameyang tonight,
Yes.
of course. So, yeah.
But he's only started, I think, 7 games, and he's got 4 goals. So, for him, it's a very good return.
Is it 4 goals? I think it's 3. 3 goals.
Is it?
Yeah, 2 in the Premier League against Newcastle and Everton. 3.
Newcastle, Everton, and then tonight. And then I've got 1 in the Europa League. I don't know what that must have been.
Oh, yeah, I'm just looking at Premier
Vorskla.
League. Yeah, I'm just looking at Premier League. Okay, you're right. I was right in the first place. 4 goals.
Trust your intuition.
Absolutely. So look, you go in at halftime, and I have to say, expecting a halftime change.
Me too.
I thought there would be a halftime change. I thought it would be Mkhitaryan off and Aubameyang on. That's what I was thinking would happen.
Yes, I thought that was likely, but then sometimes you get an indication from the way the players are warming up, and there was nothing that suggested anything was particularly imminent, which it surprised me because Emery, we know he's prone to a halftime change, and if ever there was a game that looked like it needed it, bar that Ozil goal, it was this one. I do wonder if maybe that moment right before half-time changed his thinking. Had we gone in at 1-0 down, I think he might have been forced to make the change. But although there was no change in personnel, it was a very different performance, wasn't it, in the second half? Yeah,
I think so. There was a bit more pressure from us. We certainly forced Leicester back further into their own half. I mean, they were sitting very deep. The chance that they had, which came in the 58th minute when they hit the bar, it came after a long period when we were camped inside their half. I think there might have been a chance for Mkhitaryan where he was falling backwards and he clipped it back across goal and shot wide, and maybe should have done better there, in fairness. But, it was Arsenal dominant. They hit the bar, and then we have 59 minutes. I say Lichtsteiner looks knackered, and 61 minutes Aubameyang and Guendouzi on, Mkhitaryan and Lichtsteiner off. Tell me honestly, what were you thinking when it became clear that Granit Xhaka was going to play at left back?
On a booking.
Booking, yeah. And I think one of his first moments was him chasing down a guy who was driving down the right-hand side for Leicester, and he came across. He made a good tackle, but it was one of those where you're going, oh, don't do it, don't do it. Yeah, I was thinking... I was thinking that maybe I knew more about Granit Xhaka than Unai
Emery did at that point. I was like, this is a move that I can't see ending particularly well. But I did think, credit to Emery, I mean, it was bold. It was really bold on two counts. One, bringing on, switching Xhaka to left back. Two, bringing on Guendouzi, who is a 19-year-old player, in a situation where we needed to push on and win the game. There was big pressure on him to come into central midfield and help turn the tide. And I must say, I thought he was excellent after coming on, Guendouzi. I thought he really upped the tempo of things and very, very impressive. But Xhaka, I mean, look, he did okay. He did all right.
I tell you what, he was better at left back than he was in midfield tonight.
Yes.
I thought he was having a really poor game in midfield. He was giving the ball away. There was a moment where he was looking for a corner. He was shouting at the referee, and I'm thinking, you're on a yellow card. Just shut up. Don't do anything that might get you a booking. And then he's moving him to left back, and I'm thinking, well, this is certainly brave from Unai Emery. I mean, he didn't really have any other choice, did he? Because Lichtsteiner had to come off. He just didn't have anything left.
Was that the case? He was just completely spent.
Well, I mean, maybe not. Maybe it was a tactical masterstroke. But it just seemed to me that the only reason you would put Granit Xhaka at left back is because you have no other choice. You've got nobody else who can play there, and you're having to take off a defender. I thought he did well, considering he did have a booking. I remember one of the first passes that he got was one of those where it almost put him into trouble around the halfway line. You could see him thinking about making one of those Xhaka fouls, the ones where he just sort of, the guy's running past him and he sticks an arm out and just, it's not a really serious foul, but it's enough to get you a booking. And when you've already had a booking, it's like, don't do it. But, 2 minutes later, we score. And again, Ozil involved in just a fantastic pass, cut right through the Leicester defence to find Hector Bellerin, who crossed to the back post for Aubameyang. And that, when people ask what exactly is it that Mesut Ozil can do better than anybody else in this team, that's it. That vision and that ability to spot that pass, to spot the run, to weight the ball the way that he weighted it, was just outstanding.
It's a sensational pass. It really is. I'm watching it again now.
Bergkamp-esque.
It is.
Yeah.
It's exactly that. If it was played off the right foot on the opposite side of the pitch, you'd say that's Dennis Bergkamp all day long. At the point where he plays that pass, Bellerin is about, I'd say he's as much as 6 yards away from Chilwell. And yet Ozil has seen the run. He's seen the way that it's going to go, and he plays it so perfectly into the channel. Bellerin doesn't have to break his stride. It's a first touch cross from Bellerin onto the end of it. And the ball is almost about to stop dead. The weight of it. I mean, some of the things Ozil did tonight, and I know we'll come on to the third goal, but it was real artistry, wasn't it? I mean, he elevated that game with just moments of sublime skill, and this pass was right up there. I mean, I could watch that. I could watch that again and again and again.
And again?
And again. I mean, honestly, I I've got it on the replay now, and you sort of want to. I haven't watched the Sky punditry or whatever, but you want someone to draw a line of the trajectory of that pass because it's so perfect.
I think they did. I think maybe Jamie Carragher did. Yeah, they did. They stopped it and they showed Bellerin about to make the run, and then there was the arrow going through. I wasn't really paying that much attention because I don't tend to pay that much attention to the post-game stuff. But no, not just Jamie Carragher. I just mean post-game stuff in general. I tend to turn off. But The
geometry of Ozil's performance tonight. I said artistry, but the sort of the science of it as well. It was just. I mean, he was great. He was great tonight.
Yeah, he really was. Pythagoras would be proud of the angles that he created tonight.
And what about Aubameyang as well? I mean, came off the bench at Fulham, scored twice. Came off the bench tonight, scored twice. Yeah, it's outrageous, really, to have someone of that lethal nature in reserve. It's tricky, isn't it? Because they can't. Defenses can't live with him.
Yeah, but how can you leave him on the bench now? I don't think you can you? A guy comes off the bench and scores twice. That's like, look, Look what I can do. Comes off the bench and scores twice again. And I know that the goals that he scored tonight were tap-ins, essentially. But they're goals. He's the man in the right place at the right time to finish off fantastic flowing Arsenal moves. Lacazette, didn't happen for him tonight in front of goal. How if you are a £55 million record signing world class Pierre-Emerick Aubameyang, we can talk about a competitive environment and all that kind of stuff, but he'll be pissed off if he doesn't start.
I mean, he can't do much more. I mean, he will start presumably on Thursday, but that's not really what it's about for him, is it? He wants to be playing Premier League games. There was a stat floating around after the match. I think Sky did put this one up. Did you see that since Aubameyang's debut in the Premier League, I think it's only Mo Salah has scored more goals than him.
Wow.
He scored more than Kane in that time. I think he's one short of what Salah's done since Aubameyang came into the Premier League, which is amazing, really, because he's, how many of those games has he been the starting centre forward in? A handful, I would suggest.
Yeah. It's an incredible testament to his ability to finish and to get into goal-scoring positions, regardless of where it is that he's being picked or not being picked. Even, I mean, he can't score goals when he's not being picked because he's picked to come on as a sub. But you know what I mean? It really is fantastic. It's a good headache for Unai Emery to have, I think. Assuming he doesn't do anything like super crazy, like play him at left back. Because we don't have any other left backs. But no, I mean, look, just a fantastic second goal. And then we have this habit, don't we, of scoring in short little bursts. So 63 minutes we scored to go 2-1 up, 65 minutes we score to go 3-1 up. And what a goal. What a goal this is. I mean, amazing football. Starts with the keeper, is that right? Starts with the keeper, comes out. Xhaka into Ozil in midfield, who flicks it on. Who does he flick it on to? Is it Guendouzi or is it Torreira? I can't remember.
Maybe it's Torreira. Torreira is who plays the pass into Ozil, and Ozil then produces the impudent back heel, isn't it? Out to, I think, Guendouzi, and then Guendouzi for Bellerin. And then that's when the magic really starts.
Yeah. I'm gonna watch it here on.
I think you should treat yourself.
I'm gonna watch it here on Arsenalist. Our pal Arsenalist has the goal here, so there might be some commentary here that you can hear. There seems to be an ad. Okay, skip ad.
Yeah, skip ad. Sorry, Arsenalist. We appreciate the service, but we can't. We've not got time for adverts. There's too many brilliant things to talk about in this goal.
Oh, yeah. I mean, the step over from Ozil and the actual pass he makes to Aubameyang is amazing with the outside of his foot. He just sort of clips it back across with the right kind of angle on it. Wow. That's just...
What's mad is Ozil, when the pass comes in from, I think it's Bellerin on the right wing, Ozil hasn't looked at Lacazette behind him for, I'd say, a good 8 paces or something like that. So his awareness, and presumably a shout from Lacazette, is so good that he knows where Lacazette will be without even turning his head. So he can just leave it, make the run on. I mean, credit to Lacazette. He didn't have his best night in front of goal. I thought he probably should have had a couple of goals tonight, particularly in the last stages. But the weight of his pass for Ozil is brilliant. And what Ozil does to lay it on a plate for Aubameyang is... I am genuinely short of words. Do you know what I mean? Because it's so... I mean, I've used so many to describe his finish and his pass on the second, but
it's like he slices it back into his path with the outside of his boot.
Yeah, it's not quite the old kick it into the ground to flip it up, but it's not a million miles away. He kind of sort of almost kind of stomps into the ground and it comes off of the outside of his boot. And Aubameyang tucks it away. What can you say? He's always in the right place at the right time. But that was a goal. I mean, it's almost a fake as well from Ozil. He almost makes it look like he's going to open his foot out and take the shot on, and then goes with the outside of his foot. And all I can tell you is that I was in the North Bank behind that goal when it was scored, and there was pandemonium. People were climbing over each other, hugging each other. People were so lost in that moment, partly because it's one of those great, goals after a goal where you're kind of still buzzing off the second one, and then we get the third. We always talk about that Fabregas double, don't we? I think it was in the derby. It had a touch of that, but also just visually, we scored those brilliant goals against Fulham, but to see a goal of that calibre scored at the Emirates Stadium in front of the home fans, and for it to effectively decide the game, which it did really, it put it beyond Leicester at that point. Yeah. It was just great. It was great. I honestly, I loved it. I was so exhilarated by it, and seeing all the big guys involved, the three most expensive players in our history combining to score that goal. There's something brilliant about great team goals where you can kind of perceive it before it happens. You see it sometimes with Liverpool, actually, I think, that they win the ball high up the field and you can sort of see the next three passes and they manage to do it. And when Aubameyang, Ozil and Lacazette click, they have that quality too. It's like it is all operating in triangles, and they do seem to be kind of two steps ahead of the defenders at times. And this was just one of those moments where it all came together so beautifully. And we're spoiled. We are spoiled at the moment with the goals that we're seeing, I think.
I don't think we're being spoiled. I think this is what we deserve. This is what we should have.
Maybe it is.
Why can't we have nice things? I agree with you. I mean, there's just something fantastic about seeing those kind of moves come together, because there's such, precision involved. And when you think about the speed at which the players are moving, the speed of thought, I mean, Ozil's step over, he made that step over and immediately made the move to get in behind the defender to pick up the pass back from Lacazette. Just that speed of thought and vision, and Lacazette being on the same wavelength, knowing what he was going to do. Just absolutely beautiful. Really beautiful. I think it completely took the wind out of Leicester's sails. Because you think about it, just 5 minutes previous to that, 5 or 6 minutes previously, they'd hit the bar. And they're thinking, oh God, we could have been 2-1 up. Now we're 3-1 down. What the fuck? And
I know. And we shouldn't forget those moments. We shouldn't overlook the fact that we do give up a lot of big chances to inferior teams. But the point I'm trying to make is that the psychological damage that must do to you as an opposition team. I'm looking at this more from our ability, or the way that we inflicted that upon Leicester, rather than saying we got away with it. I've already said that. We did get away with it, but now by scoring those two goals that quickly together, and I think there's something as well about the quality of the goals as well, because there's a helplessness to the opposition when you score goals like that, right? So whatever about them making a mistake or just tucking one in from a corner, but when your team has been literally pulled apart and you don't have any idea how they've gone and done what they've done. I mean, I think Schmeichel at the end of the third goal, he's complaining to the referee. About what? What are you complaining about? It's almost like he's going, that's not fair. It's not fair. Look what they did. So when you kind of have that feeling that you can't live with it, it really affects the rest of the game. I mean, there was still 24 minutes to go. You're bang on. They should have, by all rights, have had every chance of coming back into that game. And yet I spoke about it and said that was the moment that it ended. And it did.
Yeah, it did, more or less, yeah.
It was a knockout blow, wasn't it? I think especially after that moment hitting the bar. But it was just a moment where our quality was underlined. And I really like what you said about Schmeichel sort of complaining that it wasn't fair. It was almost, we've spoken about Dennis Bergkamp earlier, but, remember when he scored that goal, I think it was against Sunderland or Barnsley, I forget which it was, and there were kind of the hands over the mouth in celebration. Sunderland, yeah. And when you watch the response of the players to that third goal, there was such enjoyment in it. I mean, Alex Iwobi, I think, leaps into the air. Lacazette Lacazette runs away as the ball is being turned into the empty net by Aubameyang. Lacazette is running away. He doesn't know what to do with himself. His arms are flapping around, and that's exactly what I was like in the stands, and what I'm sure many people watching at home were like. It was a great moment for Arsenal fans, really. And listen, I know we're not spoiled. We deserve much, much more of this, but it's fantastic to come on here and chat about it and have such positive things to say and to be able to revel in these goals. And you don't want to sort of end game, and you don't want to project too far and think about where this is going to take us and what it means. And I haven't even looked at the Premier League table.
Well, let me tell you where we are. We're in fourth. We've gone ahead of Tottenham Hotspur, who've had apparently their best ever start to a Premier League season, and we're still ahead of them. So City obviously top, City and Liverpool on 23, Arsenal, Chelsea and Tottenham on 21 points. So, we're in a very healthy position. We've just won 10 games in a row, James. And I know you can point all you like to the quality and caliber of the opposition. I take that on board completely. I think you have to. You've got to be realistic about what we're doing in winning those 10 games. But if the expectation when you're playing opposition of that caliber is to win, and you do, you can't really complain about that. Do you know what I mean? You know what I'm saying here? People are saying, well, look, they haven't been the greatest teams. No, they haven't. But we've gone through periods, particularly in the last 18 months, where we've been playing teams that we would be rightly expected to beat, and we haven't. Not only have we not beaten them, we've been beaten by some of these teams. So here we are on this kind of a run. We may well run into problems when we face better teams. We already did against City and Chelsea. We've got to play Liverpool, and then the start of December, I think it's Manchester United and Tottenham within 3 days of each other. So we may well run into problems with those bigger teams and those better teams, because I do think when you face sides with better quality players, or players who are perhaps better able to take the chances that we give them, then you're going to have some problems. In the meantime, though, if you can lay waste to all the others, then you still remain competitive in terms of what it is we want to achieve this season, and that's the top four.
Yeah, I mean, I completely agree. And obviously we've all kind of earmarked this upcoming Liverpool fixture as a different kind of test. But, in the meantime, we've had 10 wins. I do think that, look, I hope we beat Liverpool, and I hope that we learn even more about this team. But I don't want this 10-match winning run to be just a run-up, to be just a warm-up. This games all count. They're all 3 points, and we are, the league ones at any rate, and we are winning them. And it's just... look, it's just a relief. It's just a relief. I think that's the main thing for me. I think that's what you're seeing in the stand is a bit of relief, and people letting go of some of the angst that they felt about the club and around the club over the past few seasons. And I don't want to look back too much, but it is a very palpable thing that you can feel some of those tensions evaporating. And nothing will do that like results. And, when we started out on this run, we were talking about, well, we're getting good results, but we're not playing well. Now we're at a point where we're getting good results and we are playing very well, but not through the entirety of games. Yeah. And that's progress, isn't it? We are definitely moving in the right direction. I don't think you can look at what we have done over the past couple of months, the past 10 games, and not say that we're definitely going in the right direction.
I think that's fair. I think there are still issues, but when we get it right and when we click, the quality, the individual quality and collective quality of the players that we have in that front four in particular means that we're capable of doing damage to the opposition, as we have done tonight and as we did against Fulham, and as I hope we'll do on Thursday in Sporting Lisbon. Anything else quickly for that first period, or will we go on and do part two and some questions?
I'm sure we'll have Lots of questions, yeah. So I think let's leave it to the listeners, see what they've got to say for themselves.
All right, we'll be right back after this. Welcome back to the Arsecast Extra, recording late at night, and this is the part of the show where we answer your questions. And because it's late at night, they're questions about love. No, I'm joking. They're not questions about love at all. These are questions that you send to us at Gunnerblog and at Arseblog on Twitter. I didn't have time to put it on Facebook this evening. Sorry to the Facebook people, but I'm going to go first here, James, because a lot of people are asking this question or something similar to it. This one comes from Corey Andres, who says, if giving Mesut Ozil the captain's armband provokes such great performances from him and the team, should Unai Emery give him the armband for every match, or should the 5-captain philosophy still stand? What did you make of Ozil as Arsenal captain?
Look, I mean, you can't knock his performance tonight. I suppose I would venture that I'm not sure how much that has anything to do with the captain's armband. Maybe it does. Maybe he was inspired by it and rose to the challenge, was particularly motivated for this game. But I think, if anything, I see it more as kind of a victory for the 5-captain strategy. You know, I think it shows that we can win. I mean, it'd be interesting to know in those 10 matches that we've won how many different captains we've used. You know, at least Ozil, Cech, I think Xhaka on one occasion. We've certainly used a fair few. So I liked Ozil. You know, it's good to see him with the armband, and he definitely delivered, but I'm not necessarily sure that means he must be the captain every game from now.
I'm not sure that giving him the captain's armband was the reason why he played like that either.
No.
You know?
Yeah. I mean, it's certainly not the reason he was able to sort of, you know, place that ball in off the far post or wait that pass. You know, he's got that in his locker, irrespective of accessories on his kit.
Maybe the armband just gave him the perfect amount of balance to cushion the ball in.
Maybe. You never know. I mean, it's a tricky one, the captaincy, isn't it? Some players do seem to rise to it and some do wilt a little bit, but for the most part, it shouldn't really make a massive difference. It is a symbolic thing, and ultimately, you know, Ozil had the armband, but there were still other potential leaders out there. You know, Xhaka, for example, is someone who has captained the team, and he's not going to not say his piece on the pitch because he hasn't got the armband on. Lichtsteiner is another who, you know, is not going to suddenly shrink because he's not captain of Arsenal on the day. I think that sharing it around makes sense, particularly at a time where we are rotating heavily. And let's not forget, we do have a club captain. You know, Laurent Koscielny is the club captain, and he was playing a full part in training this week, wasn't he? Yeah,
that's good news. Good news, because you know, our central defensive situation, we still don't know how bad the injury to Socrates is, do we? So you know, we're a bit light in that particular area because Mavropanos is out injured as well. So good to see Koscielny back. Yeah, look, I think Ozil as captain, he wouldn't necessarily be my choice, to be honest, just in terms of the kind of character he is, you know. On the pitch, he's not necessarily that guy, but he really looked like he enjoyed himself tonight. You know, there was a bit, just as the second half was beginning, where he came out on the pitch with Lacazette, TV cameras were on, and they're having a great old laugh together. It was one of those where you're going, is he feeling that good? Should he be laughing? It's only 1-1, you know, we could be in for a difficult 45 minutes, but yeah, I mean, I think it's kind of coincidence that he was captain and he played that well, but if it helps him in some way, then fine, why not? But I don't read too much into it, really.
Yeah, I'm sort of inclined to agree. But, you know, he'll remember the day, certainly, that, you know, he captained Arsenal against Leicester because he delivered a massive performance. And also, I sort of didn't really talk about this enough in the first part, but the reception he got when he went off, you know, everything that's happened with the player, with the summer and his issues with the German national team, there's been all this talk from Unai Emery of, you know, Arsenal is his home, and yet he's not quite delivered in performance terms, I think, for the vast majority of the season. I think that moment when he came off, his name was ringing around the stadium, I mean, actually, you can tell that he's not been that great this season because we've not yet updated his song. It's still everyone's still singing he's Arsene Wenger's man, even though, well, maybe he'll always remain Arsene Wenger's man. But that moment where he came off to the standing ovation, 60,000 fans applauding him, I just think I'd hesitate to say he turned a corner, but it could be, couldn't it? It could be a building block for him going forward. It could be the start of his renaissance as a player and with Arsenal. I hope so, at any rate.
Yeah, I mean, it would be fantastic to see more of this from Mesut Ozil, because the talent, nobody can deny the talent. It's not even so much the application of the talent, but the ability to produce it on a consistent basis. And in some ways, I think it's been difficult. Really, I think we spoke about this on the podcast before about how over the last year, or certainly the last year under Arsene Wenger, it was very difficult to judge players on an individual basis because of how fraught everything was in general, And he's somebody, I think, who suffered a little bit from that. And Emery, I think, deserves a bit of credit. He hasn't given Ozil any special treatment. People can think what they want about the incident that happened a bit earlier in the season, but, from there, he's got his head down. He's been played in Europa League games. He's scored. He's scoring goals in the Premier League as well. He looks pretty happy, in training at Arsenal, regardless of what else is going on around him and some of the stuff that's coming out of Germany and the lack of support he's got from people who I guess he would have hoped at the very least would have been on his side, given everything that went on and turned out not necessarily to be as on his side as he might like. I mean, it's all quite difficult to take. He's the one that was in the spotlight for Germany's World Cup exit. It seemed to me there was much more spotlight on Mesut Ozil than there was Yogi Löw, even though one man was in charge of picking the team and the tactics and everything else, and one guy was just a player who was dependent on his teammates to finish the chances that he created for them, and they didn't. So, it's been quite a difficult time, but Emery has spoken, hasn't he, about he's part of the Arsenal family. We're his family. We're here to help him and all that kind of stuff, and maybe that's working, and maybe the result of that was what we saw tonight.
Maybe. Let's hope so. It felt like it. This question, well, talking about the front four and Mesut Ozil, Jeff Barker, who's at Unk Arsenal, says, with Alba's immediate impact, Iwobi's new muscles and Ozil looking at home in the number 10 spot, have we found our front four going forward? And I guess Alexandre Lacazette is the other component in that proposed front four. Yeah,
I think that would be at the moment, that would be my preference. I think Iwobi has been absolutely fantastic in the last few weeks. I thought he had maybe a difficult opening 15 minutes.
Same.
But there was a moment where he controlled a pass from maybe Rob Holding, took it down really well, drove towards the Leicester half, came back, nutmegged a guy. Actually, we have a question here from Obi Nachi, who says, do you think Alex Iwobi has finally established himself as that notorious Nigerian prince of nutmegs? And he's from Abuja in Nigeria, so he's got a vested interest in this one. I mean, I didn't know that there was a notorious Nigerian prince of nutmegs. So maybe it's a legendary thing there. But, he has been absolutely fantastic. He's strong, he's confident, he's skillful, he's trying things. He holds the ball up really well. He brings others into play really well. He's creating chances. There was one, I think, for Lacazette tonight, which should have been a goal. Maybe that was Ozil's final pass. I can't remember. But there were a couple of good passes as well from Iwobi, which created dangerous moments. Ozil, in that kind of form, if you're going to play him as the number 10, essentially, yeah. I suppose the issue is that Iwobi is playing well on the left.
Yes.
And Aubameyang, if you're going to play Aubameyang, appears to be being played on the left as well.
Do you think tonight was vindication for people who say if you're going to play Ozil, it's got to be as a number 10? Do you think we sort of saw that, play out tonight?
Yeah, I mean, it's his best position. it's the position in which he feels most comfortable. You know, I must look this up because I'm guessing tonight he had a season high number of passes and touches of the ball. You know, when previously he's been played out of position, we've seen it. Wasn't there one game where he had like 16 passes? It's like, what on earth is that when it comes to Mesut Ozil? Let me just look him up here. 67.
There you go.
Passes.
I was going to say, I suspect it'll be more than 16.
Yeah, you know, he had 80 touches of the ball. His pass accuracy was 92.5%. 4 key passes, 1 goal, 1 assist. I mean, it just makes sense to play him there. That if you have a player who's that good in that position, then play him there. But I mean, it's how you make up the rest of that front three then. You know, if you're taking Iwobi from the left-hand side, maybe he's not quite as good on the right, you know, because Iwobi and Monreal seem to have a good combination, don't they? I think this is going to be a conundrum throughout the season, isn't it? It is going to be a conundrum. The Aubameyang-Lacazette thing is going to be an ongoing thing.
It is, but I mean, it's not like it isn't. It's not like we're not making it work at the moment. You know, they're both scoring goals. They're both contributing. I mean, how many goals have they got apiece now? Pretty decent tally. I'm just having a quick look. I mean, I know quite a lot of this is me Googling stats on this podcast, but I think Aubameyang's got 8 already. He's only started 8 games. Lacazette must have 5 or so. We are finding ways to make it work, albeit not necessarily consistently with them both on the field. And I do get the sense that Emery's never going to be the kind of coach who has a defined first 11. I'm not sure he's ever going to be that guy.
Yeah.
I feel like he looks at the fixtures we have, the fact that we're participating in the Europa League, and thinks, I've got to make use of my squad and I've got to tailor it to the opposition. I mean, that's now, you know, again, another different formation tonight. We've changed our formation, I think, in the last 4 games. But if you were saying, you know, you've got the Liverpool game on the horizon, what's your best front 4? I think that they are the 4. And I think Iwobi has shown that he can play from the right as well in this team, and he has contributed from that side. He did play that pass for Lacazette that should have resulted in a 4th goal tonight. And your point about him not starting the game particularly well, I agree. I actually didn't think he had a brilliant first half. I know he had one fantastic first touch at one point. And in the past, if Iwobi had started a game poorly, his head would have been down. You know, he would have maybe been substituted or, you know, just seemed lacking in confidence. But he's a changed player this season, and you know, the way he responded to that was kind of characterised the way the entire team responded to going behind. He fought back into the game. He used his physicality, used that new fitness level, and by the end, he was pulling off all kinds of tricks. So yeah, it was really a good performance from him, and he has made himself a first-team player. And I think, you know, I suppose in some ways the biggest compliment he might get paid is that I don't really expect him to play the Europa League game on Thursday.
Yeah. Well, there's a question I guess we can touch on in a minute about what we might do on Thursday. Is it my question or your question?
It's I've got no idea. I mean, should we talk about that now, in that case?
No. Okay, because we've got to deal with this one, because this is a very pressing issue. We've had about 500 people ask this question tonight. Ronnie, who is at Ron is great, says, can I be the first of 387 people to ask which goal do you think was better, Aubameyang or Ramsey? And we had another one here from Rian Vacha, who's at Rian Vacha, who says, how tough is it going to be voting for October's goal of the month, Ramsey's or today's?
You know what? It's a difficult one. I am going to say, I think aesthetically, I think I prefer Ramsey's. But this is such a fudged answer, but I think because of the context of the game and the timing in which it came and how crucial it felt in kind of the flow of the match, I think I took more enjoyment from Aubameyang's.
Okay.
Is that fair?
That's fair. I mean, look, I can't tell you what to think.
What do you think?
What do I think? I love the fact that the Ramsey goal, there's an element of, is it improvisation? I mean, we see that in the Aubameyang goal as well.
It's an incredible finish, and that might elevate it for a lot of people, I think.
Yeah. But there's maybe a moment or two where if the touch isn't perfect in the Ramsey goal, then it doesn't happen. Whereas I think there was more control to the Aubameyang goal. Does that make sense?
Well, I think that's the thing about the Ramsey goal, is that it is a sensational goal, but kind of by necessity, because the ball is never absolutely under our control in the early part of it. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, but does that make it better? Is that better? I mean, footballers controlling a football and being able to pass it to each other, it's their fucking job. That's what they should be doing. But being able to operate on the margins of control and technique, I don't know. For me, it's very difficult. I can't. Because every time I think about, like, I go, the Ramsey one, the finish, and then I think about Ozil's step over and the pass for Aubameyang. I think maybe just Ramsey's, just. But it's sort of like the difference. I think you could give it to Ramsey's
for being more unique, maybe. Mm-hmm. You know, you couldn't score that goal again in a million years because of the such fine margins. Whereas, you know, the way in which that, I don't know, actually, you know, I'm thinking about everything Ozil contributes, you know, right back to that back heel on the halfway line, then the dummy, then the assist. There's a lot going for it, and I feel like it's maybe a bit more deliberate than the Ramsey goal. You know, it has that kind of rehearsed feel to it, where Ramsey is kind of born of spontaneity, and I know for some people that will be the joy of it, but the Ozil goal feels like the product of work, and I think I prefer it for that reason. Right, okay, that's fine. I mean, I guess it's being asked to choose between your favourite children, you know, or whatever. Yeah, exactly. I don't really think that you know, there's a wrong answer here.
Yeah,
they're both great fun. They're both great goals.
Why do we have to divide? Why do we have to choose?
Classic Arsenal fans looking for divisions wherever they can.
Yeah.
Even on a night like this. Right. Let's have. Speaking of looking for, you know, a bit of negativity. Sorry, Greylo. But this is from @Greylo, and Greylo says, "As excited as I am for the current team, I'm also worried about parallels to previous seasons. We drop points early, go on a run, then have a bad November, December, and don't really get back into the race after that. Will this season be different?"
I don't know.
Yeah. I
literally have no idea. It could be something completely different. It could be something very similar to what we've seen before. I just don't know. I can't predict what's going to happen. I can't even predict what the starting lineup of the team is going to be. And look, I think we are going to go on, not that we're going to go on a bad run, but we're probably going to have a little spell where results aren't great. And that, to me, is going to be a very interesting part of this season, because it's easy to have goodwill when you win 10 games in a row. Nobody can really complain with results. How can you complain with results? It's how we react and how Emery reacts and how the squad and the players react when we lose a game or two. As can happen, you know, when you go on these runs, quite often when you come off the run, it takes a little while to get back on track, you know. We've seen that happen before, but I think even just the possibility of it being different is enough for me at this moment in time.
Yeah, I mean, you know, I don't know. It's a very different club now and a different team. I don't think you can worry too much about those patterns repeating themselves. I mean, it is a fair point. You know, I can remember several seasons where we had a tricky start, then seemed to overcome it with a good run, and then it all fell apart in November. I must say, looking at November now, you know, there are there's nothing hugely worrying. I mean, there's the Manchester United. Actually,
Liverpool.
Tell a lie. There's Liverpool. There's Liverpool. But then apart from that, you're looking at Wolves, you're looking at Bournemouth, Sporting. November, I don't think is the time that's going to give us trouble. Once you get into December, you've got Spurs and Man U within a few days of each other. That might be a bit more challenging. But I don't know either. I do feel like there seems to be a greater psychological resilience about the team, if not a defensive resilience. I'd love for those things to come together, but at the moment we've got sort of 50% of what we were looking for. But, you know, the frailties are still there from a sort of technical point of view. But for a long time, it felt like they were there from a sort of character standpoint, and I think it'd be difficult to make that case.
Yeah, I mean, we it's not a question here, but we had a comment from Rob Wilkins78 at Rob Wilkins78. He says, so how much has the Arsenal DNA actually changed? He says, even with the new signings, I just see the same team with added attitude. And I think that's probably the most obvious change that we've seen from Emery is this, whether it's character or resilience or whatever else you want to call it, that maybe we're gauging that on results, and we're gauging it on the fact that we're winning games in the second half as well. So we might go back not necessarily just to character, but also physicality and fitness and our ability to go the distance and make teams tired. So I don't know what my point is here. What were we talking about? It's quite late now. It's nearly midnight.
It is quite late. It's nearly midnight, actually.
It is.
So we've done quite well.
Yeah.
I'll let you off forgetting what your point was there. I'm not sure what it was going to be. If I knew, I would intervene.
Okay.
But
yeah.
I couldn't help you. Couldn't help you there.
Okay. Well, here's a question from Eric Folliot, who says, who would you rest for the Lisbon game to make sure they're ready for Palace on Sunday? And we have another one here. 1 second. It comes from Michael Williams at Michael41248346, who says, if Monreal and Kolasinac are both injured, who should play left back on Thursday?
I don't know if I'd be confident with Granit Xhaka starting a game there. I think it's got to be Lichtsteiner, hasn't it? I mean, if he's fit enough to start, I think it kind of has to be him by default. I'm just trying to think if there are any other options. I mean, there was a young kid on the bench today. I forget his name, but he's a centre-half.
Zach Medley.
Yeah, I think he's principally a central defender. I don't know where Cohen Bramall is. I don't know if he's fit, if he's available. I suspect he might have been involved with the first team squad today if he was. So I think if he's fit, it's Lichtsteiner, isn't it? I can't see anyone else being pressed into action as a left back. In terms of who I'd rest, so what have we got? We've got Sporting away and then Palace away at the weekend.
Yeah.
And that's a 1:30 kickoff. I think there'll be quite a lot of changes. I suspect Leno will keep his place. I don't necessarily see Martinez coming in for that one. So I'd say Leno. Do we think Socrates might be available to play?
Don't know. We'll have to get an update on that. I'm looking at the Arsenal
even
website.
if he is, I wonder if he might be saved for Sunday. You know, if they might go with Holding and Mustafi again and then leave one of those guys out at the weekend for the Premier League game. Right back, I mean, unfortunately, it's going to have to be Hector Bellerin, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. It is.
I know Ainsley Maitland-Niles is getting closer to fitness, but not in the matchday squad tonight. I think El Neni and Guendouzi will play.
El Neni not even in the squad.
Yeah,
hasn't played a minute in the Premier League.
No, but he has had plenty in Europe, and I think this will be another opportunity for him. Guendouzi, Mkhitaryan, you would think. I think Aubameyang, Welbeck, and maybe Smith Rowe.
Maybe.
You know, he made the bench tonight. Ahead of El Neni. So that's what I would imagine it would be. Welbeck's certain to start, isn't he? Because he didn't get a minute tonight, so you think he'll play. And I think Aubameyang will play that game. Do you?
I think he might. I think he might, yeah. I mean, he's got to play a striker, so if he's going to play Welbeck in one of the wide positions, it's going to be Aubameyang up front. So, yeah, I mean, is that reward for your 2 goals in 2 games, 4 goals in 2 games off the bench? You're in our Europa League team. Well done, son. I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's a weird thing, but maybe he's trying not to make the distinction between the 2 competitions as clear and as obvious as it was, like almost as if it's a demotion, you know, which is probably a healthy way of doing it.
And I think the presence of, you know, a £65 million player in your starting lineup does send a message, I guess, to the rest of the team that, you know, this is being taken at least slightly seriously. But I think he will play that game, and I wouldn't surprise me if he was back on the bench at Selhurst Park. I mean, it seems mad, doesn't it? He keeps coming. He can't really do any more than unless he's going to start coming off the bench and scoring hat-tricks. There's not a lot more he can do.
Well, maybe that's what he's trying to get out of him.
That's what he wants.
You've got to get a hat-trick. Otherwise, you're not getting in the team.
It needs to be a hat-trick. Yeah.
Right.
Any more questions, or is it bedtime for us both?
Well, I think we should do one more. We've got one more here.
Go on.
Oh, here's a good Paul Lane, lifelong. How many Premier League games in a row did the Arsenal have to win before the Sky TV pundits fuck right off with the negative bullshit? I think they were quite nice about us tonight, weren't they? I think. Anyway, they were talking about nice goals that we were scoring, but I do take the point in general. Anyway, Torreira, says Tom Stratton, at Tom Stratton, is rightly lauded as a destroyer, but do you think his ability with the ball is equally as important? He's an alternative outlet for the defence, and we've been cutting through teams much more over the past few games rather than passing down the sides.
Yeah, I mean, simple answer, I really do. And I think we always said that about him, you know. Ultimately, we were looking for a player who could kind of do 2 jobs. One was to help us win the ball back, and he did that, I thought, pretty well tonight. There were times where he won a header at one point against Ndidi in midfield for Leicester. He's about a foot taller than him, which was pretty impressive. But his ability on the ball is really helpful, and he does pass between the lines. He does help advance the play and make us a bit more vertical, as they say. So, yeah, I think it goes without saying it's a double-edged thing for him. He's winning the ball back, but he's also using it extremely well. And, you know, when you look at our first goal tonight, I mean, he does exactly that. He wins the ball and then plays a forward pass. And I think he's been really good. And in a game which, I agree with you, Granit Xhaka wasn't particularly good in central midfield. I thought it made it all the more important that we had Torreira there. Yeah,
there were a couple of moments that I really liked from Torreira late in the second half where he sent the other midfielders, the guys who were closing him down, he just sent them the wrong way. Just with a little feint of his body, he moved to go one way, then went the other way. And it reminded me, and I don't want to set the bar too high, but it reminded me of the way Cesc Fabregas used to find space in midfield.
Yeah,
by just sort of shifting his body one way, and the guy would go with him, and he'd just go a different way. I also liked his bit where he got very slightly stood on by Albrighton and then rolled around like a classic Uruguayan just to eat up some time, take any momentum they might have thought about. I enjoyed that. I'm enjoying some of the shithousery from Lucas Torreira as well. Particularly as that guy, did you notice the guy who tried to get Xhaka sent off in the very start of the first half?
No, what happened there?
Xhaka is sort of, when you're shielding the ball, you throw your arm out and you sort of, and he made like the briefest, the tiniest contact with this guy's face, and your man lay on the ground as if he'd been absolutely smacked in the head by Xhaka. Xhaka can do some stupid stuff at times, but this wasn't it. I think they knew Xhaka was on a yellow card. It looked fairly deliberately cynical to me. So I liked it when our Uruguayan guy did some Uruguayan stuff and their guys got really annoyed. And I think even Mustafi was just going, well, what are you going to do? What are you going to do?
That's what you have Uruguayans for, to be all Uruguayan.
To be all Uruguayan and that, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. There was a word for it, wasn't there? But I've already forgotten it. Apologies.
Yeah, I don't know what it is. But anyway, look.
It was the Spanish for shithousery, wasn't it?
Yeah.
But I think...
La Casa del Mierda.
Exactly. And I think, Torreira's an instant cult hero. I mean, his song was reverberating around the ground tonight. I think people really do appreciate what he's brought to the team. And, we waited a long time for him to get into the starting 11, and now he's there. I mean, it's difficult to see him coming out of that Premier League team anytime soon.
It definitely is. It definitely is. All right. Well, look, we're going to leave it there because it is after midnight at this point, and we have.
It's Wednesday now, is it, or Tuesday? It's Tuesday.
Tuesday. God, we started this podcast yesterday.
I know.
Been going all day.
At least we still technically did it on a Monday, for the most part.
For the most part. All right. Well, look, that was out of our hands anyway because of the way the game was.
The fixture list.
The fixture list. Yeah, goddamn. All right.
Don't even consult us.
Not even for a second. You think they would know better at this point, but hey, we struggle manfully on, James. We'll leave it there. We will have an Arsecast on Friday, looking back at the game against Sporting Lisbon in Lisbon in the Europa League, and then looking ahead to the game against Crystal Palace on Sunday. So join us for that, and we'll catch you on the next one.
Bye-bye.